Wasting money on fishing, I see this a lot. I'm guilty of it myself, and that's what I want to talk about in this video. The biggest ways that I see anglers wasting their money and how to fix that, how to avoid that problem. And what I'm going to do, we're going to do some fishing too. I got the kayak loaded up, so I'm going to jump in the truck. I'm going to head over to the water, and I'll see you there. So as you can tell, I am out on the water, and I want to get right into this subject matter because this is something that's kind of near and dear to me because I have made just about every money mistake that there is. And I'm not judging anybody that's doing this. I'm just trying to save somebody some heartache and point them in the right direction on some things that you need to do instead of just throwing money at a problem. And one of the biggest things that I see, and this is something that I've made, one of my big mistakes that I made, and that is trying to get equipment to do too many things, meaning that I try to find something that fits all aspects of my fishing, and that just really isn't the case. There are some things that do some things well, but if you really are fishing a certain type of way, then you really need to focus on that type of fishing. Now, one of the biggest mistakes I ever made was a boat. Last boat that I bought, I was trying to find a boat that does all things well. And there's no such thing as a perfect boat. Those boats that are great offshore on a windy day are not going to be the types of boat that are going to be shallow enough draft to get out there on those skinny flats. And the boats that are good on those skinny flats are not the type of boats that you want to be out in that open water offshore on a windy day like today. So you really have to pick and choose what you're going to use your boat or your equipment for that matter the most ways. So if you do more offshore fishing, then buy a boat that's good for offshore and then have a friend or somebody that can take you inshore fishing, and the other way around. If you do a lot of your nearshore fishing or if you're doing flats fishing, buy the boat that you're going to be able to do the flats fishing. And if you ever want to go offshore, you can either book a trip, you can rent a boat, or obviously have a friend that has a boat like that. That's really the best way to do it. But trying to buy a boat that does everything well, that's going to be a big mistake because you're going to wind up with a boat that does nothing good. Now, I know I singled out boats with this one, but also, it comes to equipment too. If you're somebody that fishes docks like this a lot and you don't really fish open flats, buy the equipment for those docks. Don't worry about, something that works specifically for open flats. You can adapt this over to open flats or even lighter situations where you don't need something heavy. Now, if your budget allows, you can have different setups, but if the budget is tight and you're looking for one thing, pick the gear that is going to do the job the best for the way that you fish the most. Now, this brings me to the next thing that I see, the biggest thing that people are wasting money on when it comes to fishing. You buy that new boat, you buy that new kayak, and you get excited about it, and you want to over-accessorize. So you go out there and buy everything. You buy all the doodads for it without taking it fishing. And what happens a lot of times is you end up not using half the stuff that you bought. So my recommendation to keep this from happening is to go out there and fish with that vessel for a little bit and see what you need and what you don't need. And I got a couple accessories on my kayak that I don't use, so I'm not immune to this. I've got this rod holder right here. That was one of the first things I ever put on this kayak, and guess what? Never used it. That's been there for 6 years. I've never used it, not one time, but I was convinced when I bought this kayak that I needed a rod holder right there. The other one is a depth finder. I have a side scan depth finder transducer mounted underneath there. I've used it twice, and that's been 4 years since I put that depth finder on there. It's just not my style of fishing. Now, I know each one's going to be different, so just because you see somebody on YouTube or you see one of your coaches here that are using their vessel a certain way doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the way that you use it. So again, I recommend going out there and fishing with it. And really the best thing to do is, obviously day one, you need your safety devices. That's not an option. Like the PFD that I'm wearing, any of the things that your state recommends that you use, those are day one items. Or if you are familiar and from past history that you're going to need these things, by all means, go ahead and put those on there. But if it's a new type of vessel for you, a new type of fishing for you, go out there and fish with it. And when you go to put something away, if you don't have a place to put that, make a note of that. That's a solution that we need to find an answer for. Or if you go to get something and it's not there, make a note of that. That's something that we need to make a solution for. Go out there and buy the accessory or whatever you need to make that problem go away. But I wouldn't recommend going out there and just buying everything for the sake of buying it, and you're trying to, solve problems that you don't have, and you're going to create a lot of other problems, especially with kayaks and boats. You start putting accessories on them, a lot of times that means you're drilling holes in them, and anytime you're drilling holes in a vessel, that's a place for bad things to happen. Water can get in there. There's all kinds of things that can happen. So try to minimize your accessories when you first get that vessel and only put on there what you need. Now, as an example, I've had this kayak for 6 years. And the only accessories I have on it is I've got my camera there that I need for work. And then I've got this one rod holder right here. I've got an anchor trolley. That's this right here that goes along the side. I've got one on each side. And then I have got these 3 rod holders in the back. I just put those on in the past couple of months, and it just goes to show you everybody's fishing style is a little bit different, and mine's minimalist. I don't need a whole lot of stuff. So if you go out there and you buy all these things for it, not only are you wasting your money, you might end up figuring out that the stuff's in the way. So minimize those accessories until you spend some time in that vessel. And here is what I think is the biggest waste of money. This is kind of the death by 1,000 cuts. It's not necessarily the biggest check you're going to write all at once, but what's going to happen is over time it builds up, and that is the belief that the next lure, the next rod, the next reel, the next line, whatever that might be, is going to be what's going to change it. That's going to be the one that's going to put it all together, and you're going to start catching all the fish that you want. The simple truth is this: if you're out there struggling, if you're not catching fish, you go out there and you string 4, 5, 6 days in a row where you're not catching anything, changing your lure or changing your rod and reel or changing your line is probably not going to make any difference. You're probably fishing the wrong places at the wrong time or the wrong time at the right places. What you need to do instead of buying that next equipment is really learn the trench. You need to learn your fish, learn your prey, learn the bait, learn the area that you're in, and that way you can make the determination if you're in the right spot, because you got to be in the right spot first. It doesn't matter if you got the perfect lure. If there's no fish in the area, then you're not going to catch anything. Some of the most successful anglers that you're going to see are going to be ones that are really good at using just a handful of lures. We're talking about masters of these lures. They know which lure to pick at the right time. They're not going through the tackle box and just trying one after another after another. They're purposely picking their lures. But what they do know is they know the migration of the bait. They know the trends of the fish. They know their areas very, very well. And you would do so much better by learning that than buying a whole giant tackle box full of lures with not much idea of how to use them. So it's not about the tackle. It's about the angler that's using them. Yes, lures are important. I'm not going to say that they're not. You have to have the right lure and you have to have the right equipment. But it's not going to be the thing that is going to change whether you go from catching nothing to catching all the fish you want. There's more to it than just the gear. Now, if you are struggling on catching fish, we can help you out with that. We do have some free courses that'll help you out. That'll teach you how to use live bait. That'll teach you how to use artificial lures. Matter of fact, we'll even give you a pack of lures. And for more information on that, it's at saltstrong.com/free. And again, no credit card needed. This is absolutely free. Okay, so the biggest takeaways I really want you to get from this video is, one, make sure you're buying the equipment for how you're going to use it and not try to do for everybody else. If you're out there and you're going to do flats fishing, buy the stuff for flats fishing. If you're going to fish off of jetties, buy the stuff that you need to fish off a jetty. If you're going to go offshore, buy the offshore stuff. That's really going to be a huge time saver, aggravation saver, and money saver. And the next thing is, don't buy things to solve problems that you don't have yet, because that's just going to create more problems. Not only is it going to waste time and money, it's going to get you distracted from really figuring out what's going on. So only focus on the problems that you have. And last thing is this: don't put more trust in your gear than you do in your own knowledge. If you're having problems catching fish, get educated. Go out there and really learn stuff. Learn your prey, learn the fish that you're after, learn your body of water, and that's going to go way farther than trying to buy that new lure or trying to buy that new equipment. If you're having problems fishing, definitely check us out at saltstrong.com. We can help you out. We can help you find more fish. Now, again, I'm not shaming anybody. These are mistakes that I've made myself, and hate to say it, I've made these mistakes several times, and it's something that we learn from. We just need to look back and figure out what we did wrong and try not to make those same mistakes again. So confession time. I've confessed some of my biggest money wasters. Now it's your turn. Love to hear you down in the comments below. What's the biggest thing that you have wasted your money on? And hopefully this message will get out to people that need to hear this and keep them from making the same mistakes.